Hello, it's AK here, and in this video we're going to be adding some staging elements into the venue drawing. This involves quite a lot of things, so we're going to start with the things that are flown first, so lighting pipes, trusses, soft goods and hoists. The staging toolkit can do quite a lot more, but in order to keep the video under an hour, we are going to just chop it up into two and okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so right off the bat, before we can get into dropping in our staging elements, we want to insert some important details into the drawing first. So in order to do that, we want to first make sure that our design layers are set up the way that they need to be. So I want to make sure that I'm on my production deck layer, and I want to be able to turn off my venue and my seating layer, because I'm not going to need these for this particular segment of the drawing. Okay, you want to make sure that the PDF is on so that we can reference back to the PDF the things that we want to do. So I'm going to zoom in over here, and I'm going to draw a line using the line tool from the left side of the wall all the way to the right side of the wall. Okay, it's going to be a straight flat line, and the reason why I'm doing this is because this particular venue doesn't have a door in the middle of the room, so I can't exactly find the center of the room using the walls. So I'm drawing my own reference line, and I'm going to then draw another line using the midpoint of this reference line, and I'm going to draw it upward. Okay, making sure that it locks at 90 degrees, I will stop over here, and I will zoom in over here, pick up this point, and move it all the way down here. So this line down here is going to be my reference line for the center. I'm going to zoom in and get rid of this line, and okay, using my symbol insertion tool over here, I'm going to look for a center line marker, and I'm going to insert it at the top of this line over here. Okay, so I don't need to be able to interact with my center line all that much. I just need it to be there and be able to snap things to it, but I don't need to be able to move it or edit the line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this line into a reference guide. So I'm going to pick up the symbol and the line, and I'm going to go into modify, and down here I have a guide, so I'm going to make a guide. So what this will do is it will grey out the line, so you can't select it anymore. It locks the line, but it's still there, it's still visible, and you can still snap to it. Okay, so I'm going to add in one more line. Okay, and in order to do this, I want to have another reference from the edge of where my seats start. So maybe 1 meter from here, and I'm going to draw a line from wall to wall 1 meter from where the audience are. I'm going to get rid of this guy, and I'm going to turn this one into a reference line as well. Okay. So this line serves to be my setting line, the point at which from which all other measurements are taken for things that are on the stage. And with those two in place, I am ready to draw my staging elements. The simplest place to hang devices from is a lighting pipe. And if you look under the rigging toolset and under lighting pipe, there are 3 different ways to insert a lighting pipe. The easiest of these is the line insertion mode. So what this does is it inserts in a lighting pipe from click to click. And then you can zoom into your pipe and you can modify the settings of the pipe. You can draw a physical pipe, or you can change the pipe from a round pipe to a square or a hexagon. You can also change the spacing at which the tick marks on the pipe are drawn in. So if say this was a 2 meter long pipe, I can say that I want tick marks every 500 millimeters. and that will divide up my pipe into 4 equal parts, showing me the half meter markings. So other than using this way to insert a pipe, we can also do the polyline mode, which will take multiple clicks to create a pipe instead of just 2 points. You will end your pipe with a double click, and you can see that a pipe has been created for me. The idea is still the same. You can still change your pipe settings under the object info palette, but it's just that now you have a more complex pipe object. The other way to insert in a lighting pipe is using the symbol insertion mode, and over here you can stylize your pipe to one of the predefined styles within Vectorworks. Like let's say we go with a metric 50mm pipe with ticks, and I'm going to insert this in over here, and you can see that I have a pipe that is 6 meters long and has tick marks inserted for me at every 457mm marks. This might not be exactly what I want, so if I want to modify it, I can change the style from here to edit style mode, in which I can now change my settings, and once I have it set up in the way that I want, I can choose which of these settings are meant to be fixed to the style, or which of these are meant to be adjustable within the, in this particular venue there are no extra lighting pipes, so I am gonna leave it blank. In this particular venue there are no additional lighting pipes, so I am going to delete this. But if you are using lighting pipes in your drawing, please remember to scroll down and use the standard classes in order to help the drawing be more organized. So I'm just going to get rid of these, and we can move on to something which the drawing actually has. So over in the event toolset over here, we have a soft goods tool, and we're going to explore this next. So with the tool selected, you can see up here that there are different ways in which you can draw in the line for the soft goods. So I'm going to start with the corner vertex mode first, and I'm going to pick this corner over here to start. Okay, of course I can draw in a set of soft goods to resemble the perimeter drape all the way around this space over here, but what I like to do is I like to divide them up into segments so that it's easier to turn them on and off later on. So I'm going to use this as my starting point, and using a corner vertex mode, I'm going to go all the way up here, and then when I get over here, I'm going to change this mode to point on arc mode, and I'm going to use that to draw the curve section. And once I get to the straight portion of the soft goods, I'm going to switch back to the corner vertex mode and draw my soft goods all the way across to the opposite end. To do the curve, once again, I'm going to use the point on arc mode, going over here and here, here and here. So once I know that it's going to be straight again back into the vertex mode, and I'm going to finish the soft goods with a double click. The object preferences opens up. At this point, we're not going to adjust anything first. I'm just going to hit OK and let it render out my soft goods. So you can see here that my soft goods has been created, the northern section of it, and if it's selected, I have the option to adjust my properties in the object info palette. But before doing all that, we're gonna take a look at the soft goods in 3D first. Okay, so if I were to look at this in 3D, you can see that Vectorworks has done a very good job of rendering out a 3D drape for me. Within the settings over here, you can see that I can change this to a border or a pipe and drape. Basically, the difference between a curtain and a border is borders are used in a theatrical setting to mask out sets and lights that are overhead. We're not really going to be touching on that, but we are going to quickly visit the pipe and drape settings. So you can see that when I switch to pipe and drapes, immediately the drapes look a little bit different. There are base plates now, and you can see that little uprights appear within the soft goods. You can go in here and change your slider options. So if you assign larger, longer sliders, the number of uprights will become less. Similarly, if you assign shorter sliders, the number of uprights increases. Okay, to make it cleaner, I'm gonna go with the longer sliders first. You can also change the base plates. So if you think that your drapes are a little bit too high and you want to have a little bit of a more stable basing option, you can go with a larger base plate, and Vectorworks will render that for you. Other than that, you have the option to change the width of the drape. And what this does is, if let's say you have a 6 meter long drape, Vectorworks will calculate that maybe you don't need that many drapes in order to do this particular configuration. Okay, it can also help you to change the way the drape looks by adjusting the pleat depth. In the case that you don't want your pleats to look too clustered, if you want it to look a little bit smoother. Okay, if you were to go into 3D options, you can also change the rendering mode of the drape in case if you want a scrim or you want a special colored drape. This is where you do those things. For our particular configuration, we are going with a curtain, so we don't need the base plates and we don't need the uprights. I'm going to set this particular drape to be at a height of 6 meters, so I'm not going to touch that. I am going to add in a pipe, and you can see that the pipe gets rendered in for us. You also have the option of a track, which in this case might be a better idea than the pipe. Okay, so if you zoom in, you can see that you have a sliding rail for the drapes. If you scroll down further, you also have the option to add in solenoids. So if you intend to use this like a kabuki drop, Vectorworks can help you do the calculation for the number of solenoids that you need, or how much spacing you want to achieve whatever it is that you are trying to do. I'm not using that over here, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go back to a stock drape width of 3 meters. And finally, remember to scroll all the way down, go to parts classes and assign default classes with prefix, so that Vectorworks can do the housekeeping for you. Once that is done, I'm going to go back into my top plan view. I'm going to select my soft goods, and right on top, I'm going to put this into a new container class. So this is going to be in production. Perimeter drape north. I'm also going to do the same thing for the left and right. So starting from here, okay, and one more over here. Okay, I'm going to make sure both of these are classed correctly. So same thing, parts classes, you want to make sure that they are assigned to default classes with prefixes. And under the container class, I'm going to make sure that this is in production and the trade things. I'm also going to make sure that they both have a track. And if I were to look at this in 3D, you can see that my parameter database is taking shape very well. Okay, we can now move on to adding in some truss. There's a number of different truss tools in this program. Okay, if you look under the rigging tool set, you can see that we have a truss tool, and we have a straight truss tool and a curved truss tool. Today we are only going to be focusing on the straight truss and the truss tool. So the difference between these two is that one of them gives you the option to customize the build of your truss, and we're going to start with that first. So in my isometric view, I'm going to select my straight truss, and you can see over here, if I were to click once and click one more time, the object preferences appears for the truss tool. The object preferences appears for the straight truss tool. I'm just going to hit OK and let the truss get created. Okay, so first things first, what you notice is this is a square profile truss, and for some reason there's a white section and a red section. And this is because if I were to click on the truss and look at my object info palette, this truss has a length of 1847 millimeters, which is not a very common truss length if you think about it. So if I were to change this to 2000 millimeters, you can see that it still has a red section over here, and that's because the connection intervals are at 1500, which means this truss can only be assembled in multiples of 1500. So changing this to 3000 will give me two sections of white truss, because that configuration is actually doable. Okay, if I were to zoom in closer over here and scroll down in the object info palette, you can see that I can change the profile of the truss from a box truss to a triangular point up, a stacking truss, or even a flat truss. Okay, for this demonstration, I'm going to stick with the box truss, and you can see that we also have a lot of other configuration options over here. We can change the connection to a spigot, we can change it to a flange, or we can leave it as is in plate. We also have the flexibility to change the individual chord profiles from square to round. Okay, so if you are using a truss in a venue, the truss with the round chord profile might be a little bit more common. Okay, for this particular example, we're going to assume that the truss also has maybe non-symmetrical dimensions. This is going to have a height of 800 millimeters with a width of 400 millimeters. So these are things that you can only do if you use the straight truss tool to customize your truss. Okay, once you have the truss looking the way you want it to, if you were to scroll up, you can see that there are a couple of options over here for you to input in a roll angle, hanging angle, and a rotation. So rotation is as it implies, it rotates the truss on the plane that you are working on. Whereas if you talk about the roll angle, you're talking about rotating the truss through the center of the truss itself. And finally, the hanging angle refers to the angle with which the truss is dropped down from. So you can use these three settings to quickly modify the way which your truss is set up after you've settled its configuration. Again, for this particular drawing, we're not using the straight truss tool, so we can get rid of this and go back into our plan view to insert in our truss symbols. So the truss tool operates based on existing symbol geometry. So I'm very sure that these symbols over here are supposed to be global truss. So I'm going to look inside over here for global truss, and I'm going to look for F34. So I'm going to start with the 3 meter section, which is over here, and I'm going to hit select. Okay, I'm going to start with this particular truss over here, and starting from here, I'm going to click once and move the mouse in the direction which the truss is set up, and click one more time. Vectorworks will insert in the truss for me, and you can see there is a label of the truss. When I mouse over it, you can see that a little red line appears. So what this is actually the auto snap feature for the truss. If you use symbols and if you have the magnet icon turned on over here, the truss symbols will auto connect whenever there's a possibility or an option for them to auto connect. So mousing over this end over here, I'm going to let this truss connect, and you can see we have an extended 6 meter section over here. To insert in the box truss at either end, I'm going to go back to my truss symbol over here, and I'm going to look for my box. With this selected, same thing, look for the red icon to show that auto connect is enabled, and I'm just going to insert in the truss box on either end of the truss. Okay, if I were to go into my isometric view now and look at this, you can see that I have one large extended truss structure over here. So I am going to click on the individual components, and you can see that they are all separate pieces. So in order to put them together to have one large rigging object, what we like to do is we like to select the whole system, and we can convert it to a hanging position. Vectorworks will ask you if you want to create a hanging position from each object or for the whole system. We're going to do a single hanging position from all selected objects, and I'm going to name this guy my LED wall truss and hit OK. There will be a prompt to ask you if you want to create a new symbol with the shape that you've just created, or if you want to just use the geometry. If you feel that the hanging position you've created is going to be reused a lot within the drawing, then you can create a symbol, but for me, I'm just going to go with the geometry. And you can see now that we have a LED wall truss created. Of course, I don't want the name of the hanging position to be right in the middle of the hanging position itself. So I'm going to click on the blue handle over here, and I'm just going to move it up here, just to get it out of the way. To finish this off, I am going to select the truss, scroll down to change trim height of system, and move this particular hanging position up to 6,000 millimeters. This will put the LED wall truss at a height of 6 meters, and I'm going to move on to doing the same thing for the rest of the truss in this drawing. There's quite a number of truss symbols in here, so to save your time and my time, I'm just going to speed this up along. Okay, so once all my truss is done up, I am going to use my select similar tool to pick everything up and make sure that they are all in their own container class over here. We're going to call this reduction truss, the overhead truss. Okay. You want to make sure that they are all assigned to their default classes, and yeah, we can now move on to adding in some hoists to pick up all this. So before we go into adding hoists in our venue drawing, we want to make sure that all our truss systems are at the correct height. So I'm going to go in and painstakingly move them one at a time to be at 6,000 millimeters, and this will set us at a good starting point to drop in our hoists. Okay, the thing about moving multiple objects to a different height is that we want them to move as one connected object. We don't want them to get broken up while we are drawing. And so once I'm done moving all my objects up to a height of 6 meters, you can check if you go into your isometric view just to make sure that they're all at the same height. And at this point we are ready to go into adding our hoist. We'll start by looking at our drawing in plan view, and under the rigging tool set, we're going to select the hoist tool, and we can see that the section up here has changed, asking you to pick a symbol. So before we insert, we're going to just be sure to pick the correct manufacturer and pick the correct load and orientation of the hoist. So I'm going to be going with the Chainmaster 1 ton in a hoist up configuration. Okay, you can see that there's a dashed line over here to show that it's a hoist up, and it's clear to show that it's a hoist down. I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to zoom in to my truss over here. Again, you can see the little red line appears to show that the rigging objects are connecting. So I'm going to place one hoist over here, another one over here, and here, and here. Okay, I'm not going to pay too much attention to whether they are evenly spaced out first, because Vectorworks can do the spacing out for me. So I'm just going to speed through dropping in all the hoists on all the trusses.
You're chilling when the rain, you're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.
So once my hoists are in place, I'm going to go in and do a little bit of cleanup. So I am going to pick up the 4 hoists on this truss, and I am going to right click on them and go to Align Distribute horizontally. So what this will do is it will space out the hoist neatly on the truss for me, and it saves me a fair bit of time on my workflow. Okay, same thing for these trusses. You have to do them one line at a time, but how this actually works is it will keep the leftmost and rightmost hoist, and it will space out everything else that is in between. So all you need to make sure is that your left and right hoists are in the correct place. So if you see this guy, this hoist can afford to move a little bit more, and now I can space these out evenly. Okay, the same thing can be done for just about any object that you have in Vectorworks, and it is really going to save you a lot of time, so it's good to pick it up early. Okay, so once my hoists are in place and all cleaned up, if I were to look at this in an isometric view, you can see that most of my hoists seem to have been sorted out at the correct height, but there are a few that are a little lost, so we can fix that. Okay, but let's just take a look at one hoist first. Okay, in your object info palette, there is a lot of things that you can do with the hoist. So you can set the height of the high hook and the height of the low hook. You can also set the kind of connector the hoist came with. You can set the chain weight, the length of the chain, and a whole bunch of things. Okay, you even have the option to go in and change the rendering of the chain to a realistic chain. And what this does is it gives you a real chain, but do bear in mind this can be very exhausting on your graphics. So what I'm going to do is, this particular venue has a ceiling height of 10 meters. So I am going to pull all my motors down to a height of 10 meters. And we can do this really quickly by using the Select Similar tool. I'm just going to click on one hoist, and it's going to pick them all up for me. I will scroll in over here and change my high hook to 10 meters. That should drop everything down to a neat height for me and make the drawing look a lot more tidy. Okay, so now the last thing that I need to do is I need to number my hoist so that I know which number refers to which hoist. And there's a quick and easy way to do this, and this same labeling method can be used for just about anything in Vectorworks, specifically Spotlight. Okay, so looking at the Spotlight menu, I'm going to go to Spotlight Numbering. Okay, this will open up the Spotlight Numbering window over here. Make sure that the object that we are numbering is a hoist, and this particular instance I want to assign a hoist ID. So be sure to click on the use column over here to get a check mark, and I'm going to make sure that my hoist are ID with a prefix of M, and they're going to start with 1 and increase by 1 with each click. The rest of these settings over here are not relevant for this particular application, so I'm just going to hit OK. You notice that the cursor becomes a crosshair. So what it's asking is it's asking you to select the hoist. So I'm going to zoom in over here and I'm going to pick this hoist. You can see it turn red. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I go through clicking my hoist, you can see that everything that has already been numbered remains red, and the next ID that I'm going to number appears in a little pop-up next to the cursor. So this way you can be sure that you are numbering your hoists the way that they are meant to be numbered. Once you're done numbering, just double click on an empty space to complete the numbering process. If you want to be able to see the numbers next to your hoist, you need to go into the object info palette of the hoist, scroll down and check the box to say show ID label. This will give you a little label in the corner. Okay, if you want to get all of them on at the same time, same process. Use the select similar tool to pick up all the hoists and make sure that the show ID label is turned on for all of them. One more thing we can do while we are here is scroll down to classes and use standard classes for all of them and just hit OK. So what this does is once everything has been classed and set to show labels, because we are using the standard classes, we can go into the classes option over here and we can scroll down to rigging, and under hoist we can turn off the ID if you don't want to see it. But remember that this can only be done if you followed the housekeeping method within Vectorworks. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we want to assign a Hoist Origin. So what this is when you insert in a hoist into Vectorworks, it will take the drawing origin to be the center point of your drawing, which is the 0, 0, 0 of the drawing. But because it's a venue drawing, your 0, 0, 0 might not necessarily mean anything very significant. So in order to make it make more sense for us, we try to map a drawing origin to a significant spot within the venue itself. So I'm going to use this point, which is the point where the center line meets the back wall. And it's a very easy process. Scroll down in your rigging tool set, pick up the Hoist Origin tool, and let's see if we have a Hoist Origin. Okay, I'm going to select this guy and I'm going to scroll it over here to the point where the center line meets the back wall, and I'm going to place it over here. In the object info palette, I'm going to turn off the label, and I'm going to make sure that this guy is labeled as spot number 1. So now I can get all my different hoists to point back to him, and to do this again with the select similar tool, pick up all the hoists and under drawing origin or reference point over here, change the origin from drawing origin to spot number 1. Okay, and that will make all my hoists reference their origin from this point. And when you do your documentation in a worksheet or table later on, it gives a better reflection of where each hoist is in with reference to the drawing itself. So if I was to look at this in isometric view again, you can see that the venue is starting to look much more like the way a performance space would look. You can go in and turn on your seating, and very soon we'll also be able to draw in things on the floor to represent your set or your stage decks. And there you have it. Okay, that was a little bit longer than I hoped for, but you have a venue with overhead staging elements in place. So in the next one, we can move on to adding in stuff on the floor. We can add in lighting ladders, and slowly we can move on to adding in other elements of the space to have a functioning venue drawing. So yeah, see you then. Bye bye.